Welcome to Franchise Killer, a podcast where we pick movie franchises or wannabe franchises, review them film by film, and see where things went wrong. All right.
I think there's something wrong with your throat, Noah.
Hey, I'm doing
It's not throat cancer. I'm the Kurgan.
This is a good opportunity to do Sean Connery again, too. Always time for a good Sean Connery.
Oh, yeah, you gotta, you know, what's that call to action?
Huh? What? The call to action?
The call to action?
Yeah. He can do it with
Sean Connery? No, I have a plan. It's
Round
not Sean
two.
Connery this time.
Sean.
Okay, I'm Reese. Across from me we have
David.
To his left.
Irina.
To my right.
The Kurgan.
Also known as
Noah.
And attending a wrestling match because it reminds him of the good old days fighting in mud puddles we have.
AJ.
All right.
Gold medal, baby.
And the movie we're talking about is Highlander. A movie that came out in 1986, directed by Russell Mulcahy, and starring Christopher Lambert, Roxanne Hart, Clancy Brown, and Sean Connery. We've got a screenplay by Gregory Wyden, Peter Bellwood, and Larry Ferguso, and a story, again, by Gregory Wyden. So he was responsible for writing the story and the screenplay, along with those other two dudes. This is the fourth film in Noah's Tournament to the Death, Destiny miniseries, what have you, or you might as well at this point call it the Christopher Lambert miniseries, because he's in two of them now and going to be in a few more of them.
That's 50%.
Yeah. And so far, we do not have a single film that has rated over a 7. The trend, yeah, we'll see. The trend so far is movies not as good.
No.
They're tens for the soul.
No, I was going to say, I would call this series the fun at a drunk party movies.
Yeah, it kind of is.
You know, It honestly kind of is. But I think the big question is Highlander going to buck the trend here? And if my fear is if this one doesn't, the light at the tunnel is even further than we thought.
I wouldn't call that a light. I think that's deep darkness.
Hey, man, if it's anything what Ricky Bobby said, this is the best movie America's ever made, baby.
There's some cackling at the end of the tunnel. I don't think it's God.
But yeah, despite the scoring so far, I've enjoyed this miniseries for all of its goofiness.
Well.
And Highlander feels like like Mortal Kombat was, kind of just the prep, and Highlander is the first actual heavy hitter of the miniseries. Yeah, Mortal Kombat has a cult status, but this is one of the original cult classics.
Wait, are we comparing cult classics? One cult classic versus?
Well, I think there's B tier cult classic, and that's that first Mortal Kombat. This is an A tier cult classic. Whether you like it or not, that's kind of what defines
Children
Goth
of Thunder
versus emo.
Children of Thunder
it's
versus
really
Jim
interesting,
Jones.
though. You ask a lot of people, and they don't know about it, but the people that do have a fierce love.
Oh, yeah. It's always, that movie.
Once we get into my history with this movie, I'll fall into one of those categories.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think that's kind of the big thing where we've tried to keep hush-hush a little bit on where we all stand on this one. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of going to be a big mystery once this all... It feels like kind of a standoff where it's like, okay, where's everyone?
There can be only one.
Yeah, so I'm kind of excited to see how this all plays out.
Does that mean there's only going to be one person who likes this movie?
Yes.
We'll see.
Yeah, only one of us.
Anyway, for those that are new to this show, on this podcast, we first go over our thoughts on the film before revisiting it for the episode. Then we dive into the story, break it down bit by bit, and talk about the more significant moments. Then, towards the end of the show, we give our brief reviews and numbered scores, along with an analysis on the health of the franchise and whether or not this film hurt it. So, Noah, had you seen Highlander before this episode? And when did you see it, if you did?
Yes, I have seen this one a number of times. I guess I will speak for all of us, since I'm the first one to go, but our mom's a huge fan.
All of us as in who? Because
all of us,
all
as
us
in
baby
everyone
fans.
except for AJ and David.
Mm-hmm.
So, Yeah, Reese, Irene, and I have all seen this a number of times because, our mom really likes this movie, and we kind of grew up on it a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, for me, it was like
Those
I
are all
saw
very
this one
different
through
things.
her about as much as she would put on like Conan the Barbarian. It was in that
Oh,
level
yeah.
of like, those
Yeah.
you would see these that amount of times.
They're
Maybe
and
Conan should have been the next one on our list.
they were great sick day films too.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think I saw them on some days when I was actually at home sick.
Yeah, no, definitely good sick day movie.
Yep.
So yeah, you spoke for us. I've probably, I guess we can go into it next, Irina. And
Oh, yeah.
I've probably seen this. I want to say the amount of times she probably put it on, maybe 3. I think 3 or 4 times I've seen it before this.
Mm-hmm.
It's a decent amount.
Yeah, so this is either like my fourth or 5th times, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But it was so long ago that it was kind of a rush of memories coming back when I watched it. I was
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, like the my memory of the movie wasn't clear
Right.
as like maybe a Jurassic Park or something else would be.
Yeah.
I gotta say, watching it with you guys recently for this episode was kind of satisfying because we got to see it with you guys, with your mom. We had it on, and I didn't think everyone was gonna
It's
sit
the
down.
right atmosphere.
I didn't think everyone was gonna sit down to watch it and be interested, but everybody did.
Yeah.
So it was good vibes.
Yet despite that, I don't think we discussed how much we liked it at all.
Yeah.
It,
I don't
it was
think so
not
either.
really.
It was
We-
more
we
just like
kind of
that was a
avoided-
movie.
Well, I think
was
I think we know not to talk too much about it because we're kind of saving it for this actual sit down.
We're
so that-
professionals.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember, like, I was, like, spewing criticisms at the beginning throughout the thing, and Noah was like, shut up. And I was like, okay, I'll stop.
Fight.
Sorry.
But that's not to say we'll
Yeah.
get into it. Irina, did you have any other things to add before?
I'm just gonna say I think I saw it more than you did because I'm pretty sure I saw this much more than 3 times.
Yeah, me as well.
Yeah, so that's all. I think I sat down to watch it more. Although I'm one of those people where my desire to move off the couch is no greater than what is on the TV. So I'll just sit there
Keep watching,
and keep
yeah.
watching whatever someone put. So I don't know how much that speaks for how much I love this movie. It'll remain a mystery.
AJ, how about you?
I don't have clear memories of it. I think I've seen it on TV and stuff. I mean, I would get drawn in enough with, the kind of what's not Renaissance, medieval, I guess, fighting kind of thing. And kind of a cool concept. This guy's kind of an outsider to society, alien. And you've got, the big name for supporting roles like Ron Perlman and John.
Ron
Hurt.
Perlman.
Yeah. Jim Caviezel is the...
Reese, I'm gonna need your help figuring out this one. I don't
Jim
know.
Caviezel, Ron Perlman.
Aliens.
No.
Yeah, he's an
No.
alien, technically.
Hey, Hellboy?
No. Outlander.
Jim Caviezel's not in
Oh.
it.
Jim
Highlander. I have not seen that movie. That was a box office bomb. That's a deep cut pull.
That was a good one. Well, it fits.
How about Highlander? Had you seen that movie before this episode?
No, I had not seen Highlander.
This was your first. Oh wow. Okay.
Not great if you haven't seen it before.
Not good. Not a good sign.
Oh, wow. Okay, we'll see.
David, how about you?
I had seen it once before, just one other time, and kind of what Noah was saying, either you know it and you vibe with it, or you had no idea it existed. And I fell into the latter. I was in college, and I had never heard of this movie,
Mom
ever.
goes to college.
Your mom goes to college. And I had a friend, and when she heard that I never heard this, she's like, "You've never heard of Highlander?" I was like, "No."
Wait, is that friend your wife?
No.
No.
Nope. Another friend.
She would
Not
do the
this
same
wife.
though. I feel like.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Maybe.
Has done
I
things
don't
before.
know.
And
Oh, yeah, it was a different time.
it was a very different time.
century.
And I didn't have a wife at the time. And she.
I would hope not. You were in high school.
No, I said college.
Oh, okay, college.
David's 700 years old.
You didn't hear the Napoleon Dynamite reference? Yeah. So I had a friend. She was like, "Oh my gosh, you haven't seen this movie. You have to see this movie." And like the same night, she rented it and we watched it.
Nice.
Yeah. And I was like,
That's a
"That's
Cool.
a movie."
Yeah.
So
it is something.
It's so weird because it is one of those moments where watching a movie that you grew up with, trying to get someone else on the same bandwagon,
Yeah.
is really difficult because you can't share those years of enjoying a film and that nostalgia that's built
it
up.
demands nostalgia.
It won't transfer.
There are just a lot of people that don't recommend movies well. So like you'll tell someone, "Hey, we got to watch this movie," or "You have to watch this movie," and they'll say, "Hey, go watch it." But
There's no context.
yeah,
Oh, you just
Yeah.
have to see it.
You have to watch things in a certain way if you want them to be received in a certain way.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
breaking their leg and strapping them to the couch and forcing
Yeah,
them to
Exactly.
It's like
You got to do it misery style.
recommending animes for like, I guess Naruto's okay.
But I get what you're saying. It's not like a Forrest Gump that you can just like recommend to anybody.
Right, yeah.
Smooth.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
it's recommend with caveats. Like you have to specifically aim this
Yeah.
at a person that you think would specifically like this.
There should be
Like
some.
for example, Django Unchained, amazing movie, right?
Yeah.
If you like recommend it to someone, you got to let them know what they're getting into and contextualize it.
I agree. There should be some the prerequisite should be like before you ask somebody if they've seen this, like, have
Drink
you
a
seen
gallon of
Princess
liquor.
Bride? Do you like 80s sort of
Yeah,
B movie tier
exactly.
stuff? If they say yes, then you should watch Highlander.
Yeah. So, but often people
Are you a
will
moron?
miss that point and just want you to see it and love it the way they do.
Yeah.
All right. With that said, David, you want to give us your best Christopher Lambert impression while you do the call to action for us?
Oh, by the way, he's told us that this is his best call to action ever that
What?
he's since constructed.
He said that, yeah.
And also, he said his Christopher Lambert impression is impeccable.
Spot
Perfect.
on.
I
is
dunna
what
care.
He said.
I don't care.
I didn't kin.
Conor
I don't care. McLeod!
That was definitely Arnold.
That's how he sounds. Nick McLeod.
Imagine, honestly, Arnold Schwarzenegger would fit in this movie.
Yeah, would be the Conan Barbarian
He
of this
could
movie,
be
yes.
an
He could be the
alternate Kurgan.
He'd be the
Yeah.
Kurgan. Yeah.
Better than Sting.
All right.
All
Give
right.
it to us.
I bet you're wondering about this podcast. We are the last one, and there can be no other podcast. This is the kind of podcast. You're wondering what my voice sounds like, right? You have no idea. You have no idea because I'm from many places, lots of different places, and our podcast goes lots of different places. Could be Spain, could be Canada,
I like
Could be
how
New
you-
Zealand.
could be New Zealand. Could be Peter Jackson.
He's like, you're like, could be Spain. Just not even close to a Spanish accent.
Let him do it.
We could go from all these different places, and because of that, we will be the last one to survive all the podcasts. And if you want to see our podcast succeed and come and craft the cut.
Come
Come and craft the clan. Is that what you said?
Better not be.
If you want to see us cut the head off all the other podcasts, you have to go on the Apple Podcast, give that 5-star review, because that goes into the algorithm and pumps us up in front of all the other podcasts. We have an Instagram, we have a YouTube, we have a Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go help us out, please. We read all the stuff on air.
Sorry, eh?
Okay, all right. But honestly, we have a Twitter, we have a YouTube. We are constantly putting stuff out there. If you want to help us
Constantly,
out, maybe not on YouTube.
asterisk on
Asterisk on YouTube. But if you want to help us out, the best thing you could do is go into Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star review, because that pumps us up in the algorithm and actually helps us out a lot. We actually got a couple new reviews recently, so I'm going to read one of those on air because I said I would. So, 5-star review from The Funny Maid. Awesome. Stumbled upon this podcast and clicked on the episode reviewing Twister. It reminded me of the movie, and my thoughts? For a movie made in the 1990s, I cannot complain about the CGI. It is the best CGI of the time. The characters in the film are very engaging. Back to the host. The way they reviewed the movie won me over. Is there any more stars I can give higher than 5? The authenticity and simplicity is just wow. I'm glad I clicked on this when I stumbled upon it on Minds. So thank you so much, Funny Maid.
You are
Hopefully,
beautiful.
Noah and I don't detract from your experience.
Yeah.
Hey,
Man, it was just so good without AJ on the episode.
I think
Hey,
he
Noah.
called out me too.
Actually, he did.
If he's going, he's dragging you down with him.
Why
I'm
is it
saying,
gotta be
'cause
me?
it was just 3 of you on Twister, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Reese,
Yeah, that's
Irina, and
true.
I.
That's
And
true.
I think producer had a couple of stray comments here and there.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Oh,
Thank
he
you.
leaned into his mic. He almost got us.
almost did it. All right, David, give us that story.
From another time comes a man of great power,
Talk funny, Nash. Where are you from?
Lots of different places.
a warrior of incredible strength.
You've the devil in you.
We've been kinsmen 20 years.
Connor MacLeod was my kinsman. I don't know who you are.
Because you were born different, men will fear you, try to drive you away.
A man uncertain of his future.
What you got here, Brenda, is a guy who's been creeping around since at least 1700.
It's not possible.
And haunted by his past.
Wait a minute, Nash. I want some answers.
You cannot die, MacLeod.
I am Connor MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod. I was born in 1518 in the village of Glenfinnan on the shores of Loch Shiel. I am immortal.
A hero who is about to face his greatest challenge.
You will always be weaker than I.
What can you tell me about a 7-foot lunatic hacking away with a broadsword at 1 o'clock in the morning, New York City, 1985?
Not much.
For he is not alone.
In the end, there can be only one.
In 1985, Connor MacLeod is confronted by an old enemy, Iman Fasil, in the parking garage of the Madison Square Garden. After a sword duel, MacLeod beheads Fasil and triggers a powerful energy release known as the Quickening that affects the immediate surroundings, destroying many cars. After Connor hides his katana in the garage's ceiling, NYPD officers detain him for murder but later release him due to lack of evidence. Connor's history is revealed through a series of flashbacks. Living in the Scottish Highlands in 1536, Connor is about to enter his first battle as the MacLeod clan is at war with the Fraser clan. The Frasers are aided by an outlander warrior, the Kurgan, in exchange for his right to slay Connor. In battle, the Kurgan stabs Connor fatally, but is driven off before he can finish him. Inexplicably, Connor makes a complete recovery, compelling his lover Kate and his cousin Dougal to accuse him of witchcraft. The clan wishes to kill him, but his other cousin, Chieftain Angus, mercifully exiles him. Connor wanders the Highlands, becomes a blacksmith, and marries a woman named Heather MacDonald. Juan Sanchez Villalobos Ramirez, a swordsman from Egypt, that works, right? Finds Connor after
No one
tracking his
expects the
old
Spanish
foe.
Egyptian.
Finds Connor after tracking his old foe, the Kurgan, to Scotland. He explained that he, Connor, the Kurgan, and others like them were born immortals and are destined to battle each other, except for on holy ground. Under the overriding belief of all immortals, in the end there can be only one, the few who shall be left with will be drawn to a faraway land for the gathering. The final battle for the prize, the power of all the immortals through time. Ramirez reveals that immortals cannot have children and believes that they must ensure evil people like the Kurgan do not win the prize, or else humanity will suffer an eternity of darkness. Ramirez trains MacLeod and the two become friends. One night, while Connor is away, the Kurgan finds his home and duels Ramirez. The Kurgan decapitates Ramirez, rapes Heather, who never tells Connor, and leaves the area. Years later, Heather dies of old age, prompting Connor to wander the earth, adopting Ramirez's katana as his own after using his old sword as Heather's grave marker.
Lots to unpack there. Highlander.
First, yeah.
So, kicks off kind of at a wrestling match. We've got that cool camera shot, which, don't quote me, but I think this is the first time they do that. They've got the camera hanging from 4 different, like, wires or something, and that's how you're able to get that crazy shot of that wrestling match. Zooms in on Christopher Lambert, who he is presumably at this wrestling match, so he can be kind of reminded of the olden times. And he's
Interesting choice.
flashbacking to his time growing up in Scotland,
MacLeod.
in a family MacLeod, big old battle. Kurgan's introduced as well, played by Clancy Brown. Queen, also I should say, Queen is blaring at this point. This movie is loud and proud, 80s. Like, I guess I should just say, how do we feel about the intro to this movie? I'm just gonna kick it off to you guys.
It's a kind of magic.
I'm curious actually to hear first from the two in our group that didn't grow up with this. Like, what was it like watching this, kind of out of the blue, I guess?
Well, I guess technically I've seen it more recently, and because I like these kind of movies, it already has a nostalgic vibe to it for me. I mean, I dig 80s kind of almost B-level movies, so I'm on board.
Okay.
Where was that for Mortal Kombat?
That's C tier, and it was 90s.
That's irrelevant.
Very different.
AJ, what about you?
Same thing. I mean, genre is kind of down. Genre of, I guess, the whatever time period this is, Scotland, Gaelic stuff, I guess, really. I don't know.
You're okay so far.
Yeah.
So I really like the intro of them in the past. I like that part of the intro where, you first see
like the flashbacks.
Yeah, the initial flashback of him being with his, I guess, clansmen.
Yeah.
And they go off for battle and they meet the Kurgan.
I will say it's kind of funny that he and the Kurgan fight, and then just two random soldiers like pull him away, and he's like, "We will meet again."
Yeah, I did find that a little weird. Like, okay,
well, not superhuman.
So,
I guess kind of a ballast for me, because the very beginning, I guess, was the parking garage fight, the very first scene.
Yeah.
So
I didn't care for that, really, honestly.
Yeah.
I thought
you don't like backflips?
No, the cheese was
backflips
too...
on backflips on backflips.
That's definitely a weird part.
So then you kind of jump to the Scottish part, which is okay, I'm on board with this, and then you've got Sean Connery in there, which is really okay. That's a good anchor point. So
it's interesting that there are so many scenes in this, and this intro is one of them as an example for me, that conceptually and in writing, if you were looking at the script, I could see how this would be a very good way to start. But the execution is sort of lacking. I think the setting of like a boxing ring and then sudden flashbacks the way it's framed, it doesn't quite make sense in my mind. I think as a viewer, I'm kind of confused more than interested. And then the parking garage scene was a little more goofy and campy, which can be fun, but I think the concept of this movie is worth so much more in my mind. Like, I would love to see this remastered or redone.
Yeah, we've all talked about that.
And that leads into, so with Franchise Killer, this podcast, this is the second movie that I'm like, I acknowledge that this movie is a classic. However, it is not sacrilege to remake it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
not at all.
Like, I want to see, like, this is not hallowed ground that I feel like shouldn't be touched.
This isn't Princess Bride.
Like, it's a very good idea. I don't think it's perfectly realized here.
Yeah. Although it's a weird blend of like really good moments with
high highs
that
and low lows.
Could have been executed better.
Yeah, and that other movie, by the way, being Neverending Story.
Yeah.
I think
Amen.
Those two are like this. I actually put them on almost exactly the same level, but for different reasons. Just untapped kind of potential.
Right.
Like, yes, there's elements of these movies that are impressive, and they really are kind of, it inspires you like, or it's imaginative and you're intrigued
There's a good
by
story.
it. Yeah.
They just didn't have the modern day tools that we have.
Well, it's not even just that, because they did have tools to make good movies back then, and
Right.
they hit really high highs, I think, in this movie, but they just miss. They there's so many times where I'm like, this isn't the same movie I was watching. What happened?
So for this, I would love if they just almost entirely kept practical effects. But that said, some of the like the quickening is really hard to do without CG.
Right.
And I don't know what they would do in that case.
Well, the CG, you need the lighting CGI. That's
What was the
about it.
quickening for the audience?
Oh yeah, my apologies. So whenever someone like the Kurgan or the Highlander, who's the main character, kills another one of them,
Another immortal.
another immortal, this thing called the quickening happens where all sorts of things explode around them and they kind of absorb the power of the one they killed.
Yep, power,
Yeah, it's
knowledge,
like
energy.
an absorption of life force almost.
Yeah.
And you become stronger.
Yeah.
By the way, can I say it is the most fake looking lightning, but I kind of miss that old 80s lightning
Yeah.
effect.
It works
for
for
this movie.
Yeah, I like it in this. I like it in Ghostbusters. I like it in just whenever you see it. It's almost
Mortal
like I don't.
Kombat, not so much.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it, but it almost looks like it's illustrated onto the film, like someone drew
It is.
like the lightning on there, and
They
it's
burned
just
the
kind of
film.
crawling. It looks like it's crawling like a little inchworms over everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think it looks cool. But that's definitely a product of the 80s.
Yep.
Which that tying us back in, that's what happens when we have the Highlander killing the first person in the parking garage in the beginning, who comes at him with the rapier.
Yeah, and we talked about his backflips, but I love that he's just the most average-looking business suit white dude, and then
So-
all of a sudden he's just backflipping all over the place.
That's the thing. I think I didn't feel
What a
the
backhand spin,
threat.
not a backflip.
I didn't feel the threat in that scene. That scene was more campy to me, campy fun.
Very
but
campy.
based on the intro, I felt like they were trying to go for something a little more serious in tone, but it didn't quite hit. It was like it's like a wind-up pitch, and then someone kind of like stumbled a little bit before
Yeah.
they threw the ball. You know, it's just there's something like slightly off kilter there.
Lots of nice little half beheadings and full beheadings in this
Yeah.
movie, though, and this kind of starts off that
Yeah.
trend.
What were you saying, AJ?
I just laughed at your off-kilter pun.
Yeah. Well, it's like I was coming up with it as I was going. I was like, hey, there you go.
There you go.
Well, and then on top of this, because of the police, we get a lot of fun, dated, maybe not so PC comments in this movie.
Oh yeah, it's an un-PC movie, but again,
Can you
it's
give examples, David?
Yeah, please do.
It's a product of its time.
What are you, gay?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that
What
was
are
a
you,
line.
What are you interested?
Yeah.
It's great.
Great stuff.
So we got through parking garage scene.
Yeah, and then we kind of got
police
into
get
that
'em.
first fight with the Kurgan.
Yeah.
And I guess, and this was in the past, his kind of flashback to that.
Yeah, flashback to the past.
So this whole movie is a bunch of like interspliced scenes of present, past, which I do like.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's not always integrated perfectly, but it's
They do it well enough.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's really bad.
It is.
Yeah.
Other times it's really good.
Yeah.
yeah, but it's also a good opportunity. We can talk about our two main leads here. Well, not the two main ones. Just Clancy Brown and Christopher Lambert.
The protagonist and antagonist.
The main protagonist and the main antagonist. Where are we at on these two?
Well, I mean, it depends on where you want to be because
Well, they
did
just
the flashback
fought and were torn apart.
Okay, well,
No,
we
it's just
should-
we
hold on.
can do the overall. Like, what are your thoughts on the leads?
Yeah, so far.
Yeah.
I am confused a little bit with the lead, but it definitely, I do think that it comes around once you realize that he's supposed to be more ambiguous. Your brain can kind of relax a little bit. It's not like he's just at a left field for the whole movie. But in the beginning, I just remember hearing him and seeing, I was like, what is happening?
Wait, who is this guy?
He felt more at home in the, I guess, contemporary 80s modern day character than the persona than the Scottish.
No, I can see that.
Let's
Yeah.
just say he's probably a better actor in French.
Could be.
Here's the thing. I quite enjoy this movie, and I actually really enjoy Christopher Lambert's presence in it. There's just something about him. I guess it's the nostalgia at this point.
Well, he's a good actor, I think.
Well,
I don't know
anyway.
if he's a good actor.
he's not exactly a good actor. He can convey the right mood, but
he gives
his
good face.
dialogue,
Can remember
his
his
dialogue
lines.
is not great.
He gives good face.
Okay, maybe that's what I'm saying. I enjoy seeing him.
He's
Yeah, me
almost
too.
like a some ways he feels like a theater actor to me, where there's kind of like an over exuberance in certain ways where, oh, I'm playing a broody character, but you still have to do it in a way where you're showcasing that times 10 because
Yeah.
you're on stage.
And you have stage
know,
comments explaining
yeah.
what's going on.
Exactly. So that's kind of how I feel his acting style is.
Yeah. Also, he
So-
straight up did not know English.
Yeah.
Like apparently, like he probably knew minced English.
He did one. What Reese? What was it? Tarzan. He did before this?
What was it called? Greystoke, The Legend of Tarzan. He was the main guy in that, which is
Okay.
it's a very grunty performance where very few English
Yeah.
words are spoken.
Supposedly, he didn't know a lick of English really when he did
Yeah.
this role
Well,
and had.
Modern day equivalent to that is Ana de Armas.
Yeah, exactly.
For a while, she didn't know English. She just basically said phonetically the words and stuff. But
Right.
She does a great job.
Or another 80s reference could be Andre the Giant when he did Princess Bride.
I can't imagine how hard that would be.
Yeah.
Just to be acting against people that you can't understand and you just have to
phonetically respond.
phonetically
Yeah.
respond. That sounds difficult.
In a weird way, I think it almost added to this character's mystique almost in the 80s caricature, you know, or like his 80s
Vibe.
I don't know. Anyway,
Aloofness.
so I think there's something about it that adds to the campiness and the cult classic nature of it,
How
you know,
retro it
where
feels.
his delivery, while it may not be perfect acting, it is iconic and unique. Like it's definitely unique. Nobody else has talked like this or performed like this in a role. So it's memorable. I think
very
that's why I
memorable.
like it, is because he's very memorable in this role. This is the role I think of when I think of that actor.
I was trying to think of who I would recast for a remake that would capture his like a similar energy but also do a better job. And I was really drawing up blanks.
because the character is blank.
There's so many people who could beat this role.
Well, here's the thing. I think it has to be a nobody if it's remastered.
Kind of like
Yeah.
this movie when he was a nobody.
I
Yeah.
actually think I'd like James McAvoy in it.
No,
He's-
no, no.
He's
Why, David? Why are you
No,
so against
he's
it?
that
not
is
a-
not a James
he's not a
McAvoy
strong.
role.
He's not a strong boy.
No.
Have you not seen him in Split and Glass?
I
He's
have.
a different kind of strong boy there.
No,
David
he's-
just wants a
No, there's
Nicholson.
like a. He doesn't give tough guy vibes. You need.
That's
someone
why I
with
like
tough
it
guy
though.
vibes.
I want him to be kind of the underdog.
AJ, were you gonna say David wants a Skarsgård?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Honestly?
that's probably true.
I accidentally
Honestly-
said
honestly-
Matt Nicholson, but yeah, Skarsgård is what I meant.
Honestly, Alexander Skarsgård
And
I could see him doing
Mickelson
it.
could be the mentor.
There you go. Yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be
he
cool.
would
I
make a
could,
good
I could
mentor.
roll with that.
Yeah.
But a fun thing is,
I would prefer a nobody though.
no,
to
I
be
agree.
honest.
I actually agree. A fun thing though is about this movie is when they were trying to cast this role. Obviously, every movie has their kind of like tier list of actors they want to play the main role. And do you know any of the main people who tried out for this role? Noah, Reese?
No, just go for it.
Oh, probably famous people.
Probably famous people. I also was just deliberating because I'm trying to remember
And then they
names because
saw
I'm too
their
drunk to
paycheck.
remember. But the guy who played in Braveheart.
Mel Gibson.
There, see, I'm.
That's a tough name to
No,
remember.
names just leave me. I'm bad with names.
Another
Sorry.
Highlander.
Kevin Costner.
Sting.
Yep.
Weird.
Never heard of
Sting.
him.
Interesting.
Apparently,
I
Sting
think
tried
I-
out for this
Sting
role.
could strangely work.
I think so.
I actually think Mel Gibson is perfect casting.
He's good.
Well, it's because he was
Mel Gibson's
Braveheart.
good too.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
Braveheart.
yeah, but I mean perfect. Give it.
But that
give it
would
to
have
me.
just been like, like all right, buddy, you did one, now you're doing another.
I even
Yeah.
think.
Well, Braveheart came after this.
I think Kevin Costner
well,
also would
then
have been good.
for that, yeah. Imagine this: if he had done this one, Braveheart wouldn't be the same because
No,
this
it
one came
wouldn't.
first.
It wouldn't.
Imagine Sting though.
Yeah.
Like when I heard Sting applied for this role,
He
I
would've been
just
good.
I just
No.
imagined Dune from
I
the
know,
1980s,
yeah.
just like the shirtless, like crazy, like
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
But
right, so
anyway,
I can see it.
Kurgan.
Sounds like we're mixed on Christopher Lambert.
Here, I'll say this: I don't. Well, okay. Not all of us are mixed. I think his acting could use work, but I would not have it any other way. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
That
I
makes
get
sense.
it.
Does he feel heroic? This character, does he feel heroic at all to you
I
guys?
think he
not
finally.
really.
I think finally he does at the end moment, but that's about it.
I think
I don't-
he's also not meant to seem heroic, really.
He's like an average dude.
Like
I think he is
this is
meant to-
not that kind of movie. Exactly.
I think he's supposed to.
well, he has to kind of.
eventually, yeah.
He's supposed to be this champion of immortals.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but it's
And like a
you know,
noble
it's more
spirit
about his
and-
plight than about his.
But what allows him to overcome that plight? Just
Yeah, it should feel
Plot
it should
armor.
feel triumphant when he like
Yeah,
overcomes it.
well, yeah, that like we'll talk about why certain things like that work or don't work later.
I had a question on sort of the ins and outs of how this universe works. So we have these immortals that are born randomly.
That is one thing I'm not sure.
Is there like what if like when he kills the Kurgan, there's like a newborn infant that is an immortal? Like I don't know.
I kind of like. I know it's not explained, but I kind of like that it's not explained.
Yeah.
Like
The second movie will explain it to you.
Yeah, that's what I'm not looking forward to. But I do kind of like that Sean Connery just gallops into the scene and he's like, "This is what you're dealing with right now.
Yeah.
Let's figure it out." And it's almost that Star Wars thing with the Force. Like, you don't really understand why people get the Force or what it is, really. We don't need to know that it's midichlorians. In this world, there's just people that are chosen, and there can be only one of them in the end. Like, that's...
Well,
I get...
I feel like it's a bit vaguer than the Force, but
It is, and it is. I could have used maybe a little bit more.
I just want to know, like, how do they know that there's not some other person who's alive? Like, how do they know all the people who are alive?
I want to say it's like...
I think the Kurgan says that he's killed all of them.
I kind of want to think. I kind of want to think it's like It Follows, where they're just like they gravitate.
Well, yeah,
towards
they say they'll be drawn to a place where they'll fight.
No, they
Which
say that
must
for
mean-
the last battle. They
But
don't.
that must mean that they're somehow drawn to each other, because how else would they just find one another?
Well, here's the thing. Sean Connery's character, I guess Juan. I'll just call him Juan
Ramirez.
Ramirez. That's better. He explains that the Kurgan's kind of like he amongst the immortals is special in some way and particularly, bad, and these Kurgans can never have this.
Hey, that's just vague enough to work.
Yeah. Now they leave it vague, and then they explain later also that eventually they'll be drawn to fight each other. There can be only one. In addition to this, during the movie, the Kurgan does say that you are the last one to Connor McLeod.
That's just vague enough to work.
Yeah, it is.
It is, honestly.
It is.
Well, it could also mean that the Kurgan was the only one actively like hunting them down. So he.
The other ones seem like friends.
Yeah. In fact, they're all kind of like, hey, you know what? Let bygones be bygones. And except for the Kurgan, that guy's like bad.
So speaking of the Kurgan, how do we feel about Clancy Brown in this
Yes.
He
Mother
does
effing
such a good
Clancy
job.
Brown.
He's the best because he's the worst.
yes, thank you. I just want to picture him as Mr. Krabs.
Yep.
Also, for those of you out there who have seen
SpongeBob.
Are you okay, David?
My brain
Tomb
can't
of the Dragon
remember
Emperor?
names like on the spot. It's killing me.
Have y'all seen Silence? Like he had it, but then
I had it. No, it was there, and then my brain dropped it.
Another
So
movie
anyway.
that he's in?
Like the thing with Morgan Freeman and the prison
Shawshank.
and people. Shawshank. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the prison guard from Shawshank.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that was worth it.
It wasn't. It would have been if I didn't deliberate for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I think Clancy Brown's the MVP in this movie. He is scary. He's unpredictable. He's kind of like the Joker
He's
almost.
got a great voice.
Yeah, he kind of just steals every scene that he's in because he just has this magnetic presence that just sucks the wind out of the room. And even though, he's ridiculous, he fits with the tone of this ridiculous movie perfectly for me. And every scene I see him in, something significant is going to happen. And that is what makes a good villain, in my opinion, where every scene you see him in, he takes full advantage of really putting a dent in the good guy's, armor.
Yep.
Like, he kills so many of the... Like, he kills Sean Connery's character. He kills this other guy who's introduced.
A couple friends of
and
his.
he makes it look pretty easy.
Yeah.
And then he, like, kind of pisses on their graves, and it's like, wow, I hate this guy, but he's also he's my favorite.
There is
Speaking of graves,
the fact that he's so good in this role really highlights to me the amount of plot armor that goes on, though, where, McLeod is just conveniently not in the right location, or somehow the Kurgan is pulled back away from him, when he would have clearly killed the dude. But that's the only thing where it's like, this character is so intimidating, so evil. Like, how could he not have been able to take advantage in this situation? But
yeah, what he needed in that first scene was like someone to legitimately like give him a stab wound,
right,
or something that kind of debilitated him for a little bit, and then he gets pulled away.
So when a character is really good like that, it kind of helps highlight where some of the problems are, because oh well, he's doing this role the way he should, but there's a flaw in the writing here, where this kind of was a couple scripts and then they just kind of rolled with it, that nobody really thought this through critically, I guess. So,
well, apparently there's a novelization of the Kurgan, and I'm guessing Noah's heard about this in his past. Have you heard about it?
I've heard of it.
Yeah. So apparently it goes into more detail of what happened to him, and it
is not well received, though.
It isn't?
It came out post movie, and people do not like the novelization.
I was going to say, I kind of like what they did with his character.
Well, there might be some good aspects of it.
Well, the aspect that the Kurgan's dad strangled him to death, and that he came back to life and killed his dad.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And then he ends up fighting for Attila the Hun.
That's cool. I would love that as like a 20-minute short or something.
Look, if they incorporated just a small snippet of that, but he fought for the Vandals, the Goths, the Attila the Hun, the Vikings, and Genghis Khan. So like, there's a lot of
how cool would that be in a remake if that's like the first like 15 minutes just like setting Wolverine. Up the villain?
Exactly. Well, this movie definitely has essence of Wolverine origins. In a good way, not in a bad way.
Well, Wolverine Origins to me is like the one distinctly bad X-Men movie.
I like Origins.
It's a bad movie, but that scene with Sabretooth and Wolverine fighting throughout time together is cool. Like, that is a cool scene.
Yeah.
Noah's acting like he didn't remember it.
I don't remember it.
So Liv Schreiber as Sabretooth.
I remember them fighting Deadpool together.
You don't remember them fighting through like World War II? And
I do remember that. Yeah, that I do remember that. Okay. That was pretty good.
Yeah, AJ, was that?
Yeah.
I don't know if you want some fun facts on etymological symbolism.
I always want fun facts.
I don't know if it's intentional or not. I honestly doubt it, but
give it to us.
So Ramirez, also aside, shame on you guys for your lack of patronymic knowledge, and what was it, 2012? I don't know. Anyway, that's I should have been there. Back on track. Ramirez, son of Ramiro or Ramon, who is like a counsel or wise counsel position. So that would be Sean Connery's character as the counsel, the wise mentor. Kurgan is like literally like a type of tomb, burial mound kind of thing.
Oh, that's what you were saying when you said graves. Okay.
That's cool.
Although I can't help thinking of the Krogan from Mass Effect, but
you played that game so good.
And then Connor means lover of hounds, so fits right in.
Has to be
joking there. McLeod is so Mac obviously being the patronymic of son of whatever the name is, so son of Loud, Leod. But Leod was a Scottish hero from like an ancestral hero, so he's like a descendant of a hero. So
dang, that's cool.
That has to be intentional.
It is. It absolutely is.
How do we feel about Sean Connery in this movie?
Dude,
hit and miss.
He's the
Here's the thing. I absolutely love his presence.
Yeah,
in this. I
always love his presence.
He is such a good feeling in just anytime you see him in something.
But it is just Sean Connery being Sean Connery.
Yeah, exactly.
It's exactly what you expect.
It is Sean Connery.
Sean Connery is playing a freaking Spaniard pretending an Egyptian acting like a Spaniard, but it's just Sean Connery.
Yeah. And this proves even more just how wrong it would be if he were Gandalf.
That would be terrible.
It's just another step of Yep, he is.
There's an
only
alternate.
himself.
There's an alternate world where he plays Gandalf and Nicolas Cage got the Aragorn role.
And the Beatles
my
played the
gosh.
Hobbits.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
And yet another movie we
Imagine that
cover.
What a
fever
world.
dream of a movie.
Yet
if that
another
came
movie
out.
we cover where we talk about The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, we always will.
Yeah, it's high fantasy. You can't not.
But yeah, he's as Noah, you and AJ said, he is the one of the highlights in my opinion. Like he definitely stands out. And I think what makes him a highlight is that he is only in the first half of this movie, and then he's gone, and you feel that absence.
Yeah,
of
yeah.
that
He's literally a
character.
bright spot. Like his
exactly.
outfit is bright red against this kind of drab. The rest of the movie is very
Yeah.
He
drab.
freaking has like a peacock cape when you first see him.
Yeah.
Like, what?
There's a reason he
So
calls him the
he-
Peacock.
There's something about, the sparkle in his eye and his just kind of mirthfulness that really balances out the characters you have, where McLeod is almost kind of a wet blanket sometimes, where there's not really much to dig into. It's like, oh yeah, I get it. You have tragedy, you live forever, whatever. You're mad about it.
That whole thing.
Yeah, that whole thing. And so,
Oh, sorry,
but
go ahead.
Ramirez or Sean Connery, his character is very like you're kind of looking to that fatherly figure. You want that source of comfort, especially to counteract the Kurgan, who is just complete like evil and chaos. So I think it adds another layer to it. And I think it's good that he's only there briefly, because I think his absence, like you said, is very much felt.
It adds to with the lore, I guess, like his character is out there, but the katana that he was gifted by whatever Japanese emperor that was way ahead of its time with the folded steel, Damascus steel, whatever, and then that kind of persisting as McLeod's weapon of choice that defeats the whatever the conjuring, quickening, whatever.
Yeah, it's the quickening.
Yeah, in the end, that he triumphs over with.
I would say my biggest problem with this is just in the resolution of that. I guess him as a character.
Yeah.
It happens and then suddenly moving on. You don't see Connor McLeod reacting at all to that happening. In fact,
That's
it's like
true.
it's like nothing happened,
Yeah.
and it's like later
He's
that
also
building's down.
the biggest explanation of how things work in this world, and without him, there's literally what's going on.
Yeah, I hate how quickly that he goes through the quickening in the when he's first introduced to Sean Connery. Like he shows up and then 3 seconds later Sean Connery's looking down on him from a mountaintop saying, "It's the quickening." No, I needed some I don't know, ramp up to that. It's
Feel
also
the heartbeat of the deer.
I agree.
Like I really liked the music and I like the montage, but it's
all the colors of the wind.
Yeah, it's literally that scene. But it just if there's a director's cut, this is where more of the meat of the movie needed to be put into of just the developing him, a development of McLeod into the hero that you want to follow. Like it's missing that. Like I don't get enough of.
Yeah.
Oh man, I really want to root for this guy. This is really cool that he's going through all this. Like,
you also need that talk where it's like, okay, this is a great power, but do you realize the responsibility of that power, sort of a thing, where every
Uncle
hero
Ben.
gets that, but he didn't really get that. It was more, this is what it's like to be immortal, but also it sucks because people die around you and you can't get close. It's like, well then, and they
And
talk
you're
about
infertile.
this prize. But they never talk about why
is.
is the prize worth it?
But also what exactly is the prize? More immortality?
Well, I could understand how the
Knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
prize is something you don't really know. It's just sort of assumed that there's something, but
But with immortality can come eventual knowledge.
No,
Yeah.
Do you guys not remember what they said?
Huh.
What you get when you win?
Not
It's not just
exactly.
knowledge. You literally can basically read
Ultimate
everybody.
power.
No, yeah, I know that.
I don't
Like
remember that.
yeah,
no, yeah,
they-
you can feel everything, and
and if you're in
okay.
tune with everybody, you basically
Yeah.
can read minds.
yeah.
Oh, well then...
So
But then you're
there's
more alone and isolated.
You mean
Yeah.
Like you're literally. This is more on the philosophy of it, but
right.
if he's immortal and he feels alone, but they're all fighting for survival and their legacy as being
Right.
the one, but he's literally infertile, so he can't have this, his progeny, and
Right.
he can't have a what's the word? Starts with a P.
Family.
Posterity.
Family.
Like, he doesn't have this lasting legacy
Right.
because he's always just there, isolated by himself, even though he, I guess, reads everybody. I don't know.
It is kind of funny. It's one of those things where the concept is really cool, but I think they didn't go too much further past the concept.
Yeah,
you know?
and the movie is called Highlander.
Yeah.
But what percentage of this is him being the Highlander? I mean, I guess you have him being the blacksmith with that one girl.
Heather.
Kurgan raped, but it's like, it almost blended into like a Dances with Wolves or Jeremiah Johnson, where white guy goes out and meets a native woman, and kind of that crossing barriers and just struggling to survive and learning to live, but that just went nowhere. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, they kind of shelved certain aspects. And here's the thing, this movie is meant to be an epic, but they cut out a lot of like, you can tell they cut out a lot of what is supposed to fill these gaps here so that you can understand things better, so that you can enjoy the rewarding elements that happen later on. Like it's all about the punchlines, but with less of the build up. And it's just unfortunate that is that way, because I would love to see a 3-hour version of this movie.
It's something that earlier Zack Snyder movies would suffer from, where it's showing all the cool moments but none of the like in between.
Yeah,
right.
And that's kind of what this movie is like. I go back to the part where he's learning, to become a hero, and there's some really great moments in that montage there. Like, I do love the humorous moment of him being pushed into the water and realizing that, I'm breathe, and he's kind of like just starts thwacking away at seaweed. and then I like the running on the beach scene alongside the horse. Like, it's so cool. Like, but I just need more of that.
Yeah.
But
I always come back to this one, but what was it, 2004 Count of Monte Cristo? I haven't seen that in years now.
I think I watched it with you last.
I love that movie. They do this perfectly, where they have, the bad thing happens at the beginning, mentorial arc where they're learning and they're becoming better at this, and then the punchline at the end being like, oh, now they're like a force to be reckoned with. And they just kind of skip the process here. They have it happen in little bits, but they don't really build to it properly.
Yeah.
And then whenever the punchlines do happen, sometimes they're not as satisfying as they could be because of that.
Yeah. I agree. So at this point, we have established that hero and villain. They had... we did also go back into the past, caught up with Sean Connery's character, Ramirez. Have we got to his death yet? I know I referenced it.
I think we did. We went over his death.
Yes, we went over his death.
Yeah.
Which I guess these immortals they can only die by the hand of another immortal, or specifically like being decapitated.
They have to be decapitated.
Okay.
Like, that's like it. Once the head, I think Sean Connery says that once your head leaves the body, that's it. Like, it's,
well, what happens if a mortal does it to you?
I think you can still die by mortal.
I know. I guess just nobody gains your knowledge.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe it's the nearest one who's just lucky.
No, all of a sudden the executioner's like,
he's just sitting on the crapper and suddenly. So where did we end in that story then? Just want to make sure.
Yeah. So the end, basically, it's where we're kind of at, where we have the Kurgan attacking. They kind of rape his wife, and
kind of.
Okay,
just a little bit.
Yeah.
We didn't
trigger warning for this movie if you do watch it.
Yeah, they put this plot point in there where like she doesn't tell him, but they never like explain why or develop her character as a support or building his character.
Yeah.
Like, you could have easily made it a thing where she didn't want him to go and get killed, so she concealed it, but Yeah, I don't know.
Well, so we ended where she dies, and he puts his sword as the grave marker, and he takes
Yeah.
Ramirez's sword as his own.
And we didn't talk about her or Roxanne Hart, the
Not like there's
scientist
much to
lady.
talk about.
But I mean, we should at least just acknowledge their presence in this movie.
Right.
What's the girl's name from the past?
From the past, Heather.
Yeah. Heather. I'm trying to find that actress's name. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, Beatty Edney. Heather McLeod. And then modern day we have Roxanne Hart as Brenda Wyatt. Brenda Wyatt's the scientist who's kind of investigating what's going on. She found the sword, and Heather is the first wife of Connor.
What about the Nazi child?
Oh, I don't think they were married.
No, they weren't. But I think she had a actually impactful role.
Yeah,
the
middle-aged secretary.
We're about to go over that in the next plot.
Yeah,
that's fair. That's fair.
So we'll just touch on them later. We'll
I should get into the next plot.
Yeah, let's go further.
In 1985, the time of the gathering approaches, and the Kurgan is compelled to come to New York, where Connor now lives as an antique dealer under the alias Russell Nash, working with his confidant and adopted daughter Rachel Ellenstein. Brenda Wyatt, a metallurgy expert working for the police as a forensic scientist, finds shards of Connor's sword at Fossil's murder scene and is puzzled they come from a Japanese sword dated around 600 BC, but made with medieval-era methods. Brenda witnesses the Kurgan attack Connor before police arrive, forcing them to flee. She meets with Connor twice afterward, hoping to learn about the paradoxical sword. Connor likes her, but tells her to leave him alone. Connor briefly reunites with fellow immortal and friend Sunda Castigar, with whom he reminisces about old times. After they part ways, the Kurgan duels and beheads Castigar. However, the Kurgan leaves a witness behind who describes him as the killer. Concentrating the NYPD's search on him, Brenda investigates Connor and finds evidence that he has lived past centuries, including faking his own death every so often, living at the same address for nearly 300 years, and seeing that all his past identities, the son of the previous pseudonym, have the same handwriting. On Heather's birthday, Connor lights a candle for her in a church, as he has done every year. The Kurgan arrives and confirms that he and Connor are now the remaining immortals, and also reveals that he raped Heather. Disgusted, but prohibited from fighting the unholy ground, Connor leaves. Brenda confronts Connor, who explains his true identity. After spending the night together, they part company on account of Connor's immortality, but the Kurgan finds out about their newfound intimacy and kidnaps Brenda to draw Connor out. Connor decides that it is time to leave behind the Russell Nash identity, says goodbye to Rachel, and confronts the Kurgan at the Silver Cup Studios in Queens, rescuing Brenda in the process. After a long duel, Connor outfights and decapitates the Kurgan, absorbing his massive power and winning the prize. Connor returns to Scotland with Brenda and reveals that he is now a mortal man who can age and have children.
How convenient.
Yep.
He is also now able to read the thoughts and feelings of people all around him across the world. In remembering Ramirez's lesson, he hopes to encourage cooperation, understanding, and peace among humanity.
There's a bit of a relationship power imbalance there.
A little bit.
By the way, who finds the relationship between him and that girl to be strange when she grows up into being the secretary?
No, I don't. I completely disagree.
I just thought it was weird. Like, he saved her as a
No,
kid.
she's very interested in his sword.
Well, I thought it was
she
a good...
wants to inspect his sword, and that's what happens.
I actually think it was, I thought it was pretty I thought it was pretty nuanced, the fact that,
Me too.
you know, she seemingly has an infatuation with him, but he sees her as
Well, he
still a
raised
child
her
a little
too.
bit.
He saved
Yeah.
her. He raised her.
She's
he
like-
taught her that he's immortal.
She's like
and
his
she
daughter.
sees it.
Wait, are we
Yeah,
talking about
they
Brenda or Rachel?
Kiss on the lips.
No, they don't kiss on the lips. He
Yes, they
kisses
do.
her on the cheek.
Who are we talking
On the
about,
cheek,
Brenda
I
or
saw it.
Rachel? Rachel.
We're talking
or
about
Brenda?
the Nazi girl.
Oh,
They
okay. I
stop
thought we were
calling
talking
her the
about Brenda.
Nazi girl.
No,
She's
she's the victim.
Yeah, she's just.
She was the
She's
victim
just
who almost got shot
Rachel.
by the Nazi.
Yeah,
She's
that's how I
very
remember
Aryan.
her.
Why were they aiming at her?
Her name's Rachel.
Her name's Rachel.
Anyways, she was a young kid
Rachel
that he
Ellenstein.
saves during World War II.
Yes, Rachel Ellenstein.
And obviously, it's the Nazis. It would be World War II.
There you go.
Well, they were in World War One as well.
Yeah,
They weren't.
No,
not
they weren't.
in
They weren't.
full
the
No,
Nazis
They
in
weren't.
World
They
War
weren't.
One.
You're right. You're right. You're right.
Anyways, she is later his, I guess, secretary or assistant or
Secretary.
Yeah.
And assistant.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there is a little bit of a relationship dynamic there in that he is fatherly, but it would seem that she kind of has feelings for him.
I think she loves him. I don't see
Yeah.
any sort of like romantic feelings. I never got that.
That she like is looking into his eyes and like expecting a kiss.
Yeah.
That's not how
I
a daughter
disagree.
looks at
I
her
know.
dad.
I did not think that.
I agree with Noah.
I know you do. I disagree.
I think it's like sense of awe at this,
Yeah.
I mean, just being around him, and
Yeah.
I'm sure there's got to be
Yeah.
something there because, like, the rescuer, of her and saving her life and just being around him, I'm sure
Yeah.
she has some kind of.
She's enamored by him.
Well, she loves
Yeah.
him.
So
I think she loves him.
The thing that wouldn't make sense though is that when she finds he might have a love interest, she's actually excited for him
Oh,
and
really?
tries
Yeah. Oh,
to
you're
tries to
right.
push him in that direction. So I think there's
Well, but also that could just be because
I think
I think it's just complicated.
anyway.
it is definitely.
The thing
complicated.
is,
I think it's like a money penny thing where she would get with him if
Yeah.
she could, but
Right.
she's also not gonna like
Yeah, we'll
toss
leave
him
it at
out
that.
because he's with
It's-
other girls.
Some
It's
James
still-
Bond references in
Yeah.
there.
So it's still vague. It's just a vague kind of connection that you don't really. It is confusing. Like you don't really know how to read it really. So, but that being said, I did really like the inclusion of her character,
Me too.
and I think the fact that relationship is confusing sort of adds to the movie in a weird way because this is a situation that is abnormal. People don't live forever. So I can understand how there would be relationships built that are very confusing.
That actress's name is Sheila Gish, by the way.
Again, though, they add this companion where Heather was the first one.
Right.
Rachel is the second one. They don't ever flesh out that relationship dynamic to say, okay, yeah, he's allowing himself to be close with somebody, to know his secret or whatever.
Right.
Or I don't know. Like again, that
I
could be an
think-
opportunity for growth
I think
for
that's
him.
I think that's another clue as to what their relationship is. Because if he were like thinking of her as a partner, he would be more distressed by that, I think, which is because that was established by the interaction with Heather. He had to see her die basically. So if he I don't know. But anyway, I think that the death of Heather and then the rush into the relationship with what's this lady's name? The forensic
Lane.
lady.
Brenda.
She is a little Lois Lane like. What's her name?
Brenda.
Brenda. Was weirdly really sudden, especially once he finds out that Heather was raped. It's almost like immediately after that he has a love scene with Brenda.
Let me tell
weird
It's weird
juxtaposition
timing.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me tell you, these kinds of things don't get better with the following movie.
Right.
Yeah, but a little bit about the book. That this is why one of the reasons why it's not looked upon favorably. They decided that he would have had 9 wives at this point.
Wait,
Was
who?
he a cat?
Connor McLeod.
Well, I mean, I can understand.
Oh,
living
9
through a
wives. I
time.
thought they said 9 wives.
No, he has 9 wives, and apparently just is okay with that. Even though
there's
Sean
so many
Connery's
jokes I
character
can make
Ramirez
there.
was like, maybe you shouldn't have lovers.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody's different.
And but going like forget about the books now. I have a pitch.
Oh, okay.
3 movies.
Oh, back to this.
3 movies. The Highlander. First part is the introduction of the Kurgan and
Connor McLeod.
the Kurgan and McLeod as well as Ramirez. This is their movie for the first one.
This movie.
And it's all in the past,
No,
right?
yeah. Yes, all in the past.
Oh, I see. Okay,
all in
I
the
see.
past. Second movie is like the World War II era stuff.
Space
This
side.
kind of the stuff leading up to maybe a little bit of
But
like
Ramirez
the
is
early.
alive, right? Ramirez.
No.
Oh, okay.
It can end. It ends with that encounter with them.
Ramirez dying.
Ramirez dying, that thing, and
So it
then
kind of has a downer ending a little
yeah,
bit.
has a downer ending, and
But makes
with
you hate
his,
the Kurgan.
eventually his wife Heather will die at the end of this, and it'll be like kind of a sad ending. But maybe they can like do a little teaser for number 2. And number 2 is going to be, almost like a montage of the years, like a number of small anthologies leading up to current day.
So your pitch for the sequel is the longest montage ever made.
Montage sounds really bad. I don't want to. Anthology is the word. So it can be like 3 stories. Him meeting that other guy in the with the duel, and
I kind of like that idea.
Him meeting that other guy with the duel, establishing that friendship, then the World War II arc, and then. Eventually
he gets a daughter.
That you have another maybe you encounter the Kurgan once more, and it's like set in stone. Like, whoa, you are my enemy, even more. And then
it's like, why are you a Nazi?
Third movie is modern day. You introduce,
I think. Can I
forget about Brenda?
Can I alter your ending of the second one real quick?
Sure.
I think since we ended on the downer on the first movie, I think he deals what he thinks is a mortal blow to the Kurgan.
Oh.
And he kind of slinks off. And then he has to come back, and it's a big surprise in the final movie that, he's still,
all of a sudden, Star
nearly
Wars
headless?
episode...
How can it be nearly headless?
Nearly headless Kurgan.
Yeah. So perhaps the Kurgan found him and was, adding to his stockpile of, quickening whatevers.
The Darth Maul.
And this was the beginning of
his
that.
stock of quickening whatevers.
Yeah, I couldn't think of the word. He was stockpiling power, let's just say. But this was at the beginning of that. He gets defeated by Connor because Connor's had a mentor, and maybe he and the other, I don't know, doesn't matter. Follow-up movie, he has decided, I'm now gonna hunt all of them, get more powerful again, and take out McLeod, and that's kind of where it picks up.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
I think.
Are you sure you don't want 7 movies?
Yeah,
I don't necessarily want 7.
7's a nice number.
No, do
unless
9,
unless
one
they
for
find
each
a really
wife.
good way to do it.
No, that's cool. I would watch that movie.
3 movies, trilogy.
All right, so back to the story. Brenda inspects his sword, and then.
Yep. So we do have this whole scene with them. They had the camera set up, and there's the guy out in the. There wasn't a camera, but there was a guy out on the street, kind of spying.
Yeah, she was recording, and
he kind of sees all of that.
Somewhere,
and it's kind of it's kind of supposed to be a meet cute scene a little bit. He's kind of being cheeky with her. I don't think they have much chemistry, personally.
Him and Brenda?
Yeah, but the movie also doesn't give them a lot of time to
I'll say
do
they have
that.
0 chemistry.
Which is weird because I feel like he has chemistry with a lot of people in this movie.
He has really good chemistry with Heather.
Well, what I'm saying is with a lot of characters, even people who are on the screen for 5 minutes.
By the way, is that the worst old lady makeup that I've ever seen?
Yes,
it's basically nothing.
It's okay.
No,
it's
they
fine.
they didn't do anything.
It's
they
fine.
they gave her
a little bit.
No, they gave her a white wig, and they dyed her eyebrows
80s,
white.
Man, they had French coaches.
They had her. They did some makeup on her face.
Smudged her face a little bit. It was. It
looks
bad.
It looks a tinge wrinkled.
It's all I'm saying is she did not look on the verge of death.
I just saw it. It wasn't
great. I agree. It doesn't look great, but that's not the most offensive thing.
Nah, it's fine.
So we do also get this other Highlander on the. No, he's not a Highlander. Sorry, he's another person who is immortal.
Yes,
old friend of McLeod, and I think they both acknowledge hey, we're not the last ones. We don't have to make this a thing. Don't worry.
I feel like everybody except for the Kurgan, they're all friends.
Yeah. They're all I think they're all just writing this out and just saying, hey, how long, we don't have to fight. Also, the Kurgan's the one guy just stirring stuff up.
Think about how weird it would be or complicated it would be that you have to fight these people to the death, but they're the only people that understand your situation. Mm-hmm. So you do either make friends or enemies, literally. So
well, then
I think
if you kill them all, you get their thoughts in your head. Sounds awful.
Yeah.
It's awful. Yeah, so I could imagine them forming sort of this alliance where, oh, hey, we won't kill each other. We'll just ride this out as long as possible.
Yeah.
I will say though that sort of I don't know, the
Victorian
flashback.
England
Yeah, exactly. The
time.
Victorian England where it shows the flashback of McLeod doing the duel is hilarious.
It's good.
It is a good scene.
Yeah, that's a good scene. I think it's was this? I don't even know if it was England. I don't know where it was.
I think it's England.
It's 1700s, 1800s times. I'll just say that.
Yeah. Well, they're doing a duel and they're fighting to the death with swords, but he keeps coming back to life after he gets stabbed multiple times.
It's gotta be England.
I don't know
Or
why,
France.
but it kind of looks French to me.
Yeah, or
That is
but I don't-
that's a French
Yeah.
actor.
Yeah.
No, what's his name from?
Yeah, but
they have white wigs.
The problem is like, well, I mean,
That's
yeah, I don't
that's
know.
a British thing.
I don't know. Maybe it's a French thing too.
No.
I'm
Who
not
cares?
sure.
We're making
might.
idiots of ourselves. I feel like.
Yeah, no one knows.
But the weird thing is, if it's France, which it seems like it is, then why are they not speaking French, seeing as they have some French actors
I
here?
think
Movie.
they're British.
Were they speaking?
Why do we
Scottish
have an
Gaelic
Egyptian
before?
playing a Spaniard who's speaking in a Scottish accent?
Yeah, that is a good question.
All right.
All
Anyway,
right, church scene.
Gosh, this
Good
was good.
scene.
It was so bad, but it was good.
It's a good scene.
no, that was a good scene. It was like firmly established him as bad. Like it's smart to have him in a church where it's just you really see the juxtaposition, like literally black against white, and just I don't know. It was a good idea.
Think Home Alone, but throw in two immortal beings.
Yeah.
It's just like a
What?
no.
It's the same church from Home
the,
Alone.
The thing is, it's just got this really good, dichotomy between the two characters. One being, the upright one going to church, lighting a candle for his long dead wife, mate.
Yes.
And then the other guy waltzes in, slinks in, causes a fuss, is chaotic, puts out all the candles, which, oh my gosh, what a good character touch.
Right.
And it's just that I think scenes like that are really good
Character building.
when you have the good guy and the bad guy meeting face to face in a situation in which they can't
They
And
can't
that's
fight.
also
confront
close,
each other.
And also closely with this scene, you have the beheading of his friend, just to add insult to injury.
That's not the insult though. The insult's when he learns that the Kurgan in that moment tells him that he rapes his
there's
wife.
like three different things that are just getting you to really hate this guy.
But they can't
She
fight.
didn't tell you.
The thing is, they explained earlier that they cannot fight in the
guy.
church, which makes sense in a lot of these movies. In Holy Ground, there's the church. You cannot
Holy
fight.
to who?
Although they said it's more. The thing is, I expected a Barbosa thing where it's like, yeah, that's the rule, but people don't always abide
More
by
like
the
guidelines.
rules. It's more like guidelines than the actual rules.
Oh, okay. So I was looking it up. Sorry, going back to that location where the duel took place, and it was in Boston.
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 You're right.
Yeah.
Well, actually, none of us are right.
It was
we were wrong.
supposed to be around 1783.
Wait, how do we know none of us are right?
Because Boston.
What does that have to
That's
do with
not.
anything?
They were it was in America where the sword duel.
Oh,
fight.
that.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was 1783
I see. Sorry,
in
I was
Boston.
confused.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, just wanted to look that up.
But
knew
it is
that-
closest to England.
That mansion in the background did kind of look like one of those. I don't know. Front.
Well, the thing is, a lot of Americans back then were replicating what was popular at the time, which in that point was
Not really replicating,
England.
but carrying over.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
they
true.
knew
Also-
nothing
Well,
else.
they were like 30 years behind because it's how long it took to
Yeah.
learn things.
Anyway,
Yeah, so Kurgan does a lot of evil things. Then he
evil
captures
and comical at the same time.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. That's a good balance. They don't make him absolutely detestable, even though what he's done is so awful.
Well, he is absolutely detestable. However,
he's watchable.
You're very interested in what he's doing. He's very entertaining.
Yeah. And then he captures Brenda and takes her along for a ride, kills a pedestrian or two, and this leads to our final face-off. I actually really like this scene of him in the car. Just it's almost this trippy kind of. It almost seems like a drug trip, almost of him just like, and the colors are all red and just off kilter. It just everything feels weird, and it's just this mad drive to this location.
Yeah.
Like
And then
for
you have-
once, you finally get a first person perspective of what it's like to be in a ride along with the Kurgan, and
then
it
you
is
have,
not
like,
fun.
kind of a spooky rendition of Freddie Mercury singing New York in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And what's the name of that location? The big red letters where he ends up taking her in the. Can't remember what it says. I know it starts with an S, but
I don't even remember.
McLeod follows them there, and we have our final standoff. What do we feel about this final fight, or how do we feel about this final fight?
There's some shots that I actually really do like in this scenario, and
I love the
think-
use of color too.
Yeah, the use of color. There's a point where they're battling and or fighting, and they kind of have a silhouette going on, but the concrete floor is slick,
And
so
the
you
camera's
can
very
see-
low to the ground too.
So you can see their reflection in the water too, and I was like, that's actually nicely set up. I like that.
Yeah.
So just another element of this movie having good highlights, but then it also doesn't feel like it should be in the same film, or it wasn't given the same
low lows.
treatment all throughout.
I think my like nitpick for this is maybe they couldn't have done any better with it, but I found it hard to get into the fights because they were obviously like pulling their punches. And
Okay.
I know it's by pulling their punches I mean the actors or the choreography was just it was like whenever someone slammed a sword against someone, it was these are supposed to be Highlanders, super advanced people.
It's a lot of slow swinging.
And it's slow swinging, and someone's starting a swing about like 2 minutes ago, and then he's only just barely blocking it.
I will say
And,
though, after
you know.
watching so many like John Wick, like fast action type movies, it was kind of refreshing to go back to a time where it was just like these big striking blows, where it would just
Well,
take a
that's
lot of ramp up to.
That's the thing. If it were just big strikes, if the damage was like heavy, if the impact was there, it would be fine if it was a little slower. But it was like they like go fast through a swing, then slow down before they hit the other person.
No, I know what you're talking about.
Or-
and then there'd be an unnaturally huge amount of sparks.
Yeah. Well,
Even when they hit cars and
So
stuff.
it's weird that's one of the things I kind of enjoyed. That's like a campiness that I like. Like, oh yeah, the sparks, whatever. I don't know. I thought it was kind of fun, even as doubtful as it is. But it was more just like I wanted to see some impact. I wanted to see some passion in those strikes.
Yeah.
So
How about you, other ones who haven't chimed in on the end? What did y'all feel about the final fight?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is Freddie Mercury and the CGI, which is...
There's no CGI.
Sort of. They had their visual effects. Right?
Yeah, VFX.
You had your VFX, quote unquote. I liked what they did. I liked the hand-drawn aspect. They didn't really know what to do in that moment. I heard that originally that the fight was supposed to be really short and that they continued it and ended up kind of reworking around it because they enjoyed the fight that they ended up creating. And I'm into it. And they didn't really know what they were going to do with the CGI, the VFX at the time.
I really
because
liked
it was
all the
limited.
kind of illustrated monsters that were like
Me too.
consuming them.
Yeah, me too.
I was like, oh, that's an interesting touch.
They did it well for what they were trying to do.
Yeah. AJ, how about you?
I'm with Irina. I think the highlight of it is the cinematography, photography of it, the setup of the scenes. I was just more thankful that the end of the movie was there.
You're being too nice, AJ. I want to hear you rip into this.
Yeah,
I
go
will.
for the throat if you want to. I don't care.
No, I will in my review.
He's
He's gonna save it
He's
for the
saving
review.
it.
And this is why ultimately, once we're at the end of this, I think that I am fully willing to have someone remake this movie, and I will not be offended at what happens. So long as you actually do the source material justice and make a better movie. Like, I don't want to see some like half-assed remake that somehow ends up worse than this, where it's given to a director who kind of like doesn't know what they're doing. I want to see someone who was a fan of this movie and saw where they could improve it.
it's like a masterpiece done half right.
Yeah, and not, I wouldn't even say masterpiece, but it's like
Well, the story. I think the story is
It's well written. I don't know.
If it's fully fleshed out,
masterpiece.
if it's
Yeah.
fully fleshed out, it could be a masterpiece.
It
The
could
thing
be.
is, I was-
That's why I said done half
I
right.
see. I see what you're saying.
And I was watching this final movie, and I was thinking to myself, if I had been truly invested in McLeod as a character, this would have hit so hard and been so awesome. It would have been like, oh, this is the clash that I've really been waiting for. But instead, we have one villain who lives up to the name, and then McLeod is just kind of this guy who drifts through this movie, and he's like okay in it. But I wanted real kind of an emotional battle, and because and I have to say it's because of
Clancy Brown.
the main performance, Christopher Lambert, that it just doesn't sing like it should. It like I like seeing his face in this movie. I like him as a person, as an actor, but just I could have used more from him, and maybe that's on the cutting room floor, and there's more that they didn't insert into this movie because they were trying to get the cut down to an agreeable time.
Well, we know there is.
Yeah, then there is, but it's just it's so close, and it just misses the mark for me, even though I think it's a really well executed finale.
Yeah.
Do we have any final thoughts on the movie before we close out and go into the next portion?
I'm excited to hear what the future of the franchise is.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and on the other end, we will get into our brief reviews with numbered scores, along with what critics thought. Then we'll get into some box office and close out with a little bit of franchise talk. So we'll see y'all then. Welcome back. David, you got our reviews there in a bowl. You want to pull them at random?
First up, I can tell who they are by the folds in the paper now.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is me.
You can tell how you fold paper.
No, I
wouldn't have known
I can
it
tell
was me.
everybody folds paper.
This one's mine. This one's mine.
Hey, you guys.
And we love
I guess I'm starting us off with a 7.
All right.
I feel like I'm starting us off on the strong point here. There is I didn't grow up with this movie, but it is very nostalgic. Even as we were preparing for this episode, I kind of craved watching it. Like I just wanted to watch this episode.
Yeah.
And
This movie.
And there's just something about it. I don't know.
Let there only be one.
Nope. Let there be 5. I want to watch this 5 times.
Not just 3.
Nope. 5 times.
Yeah, well, that's what we're doing.
Well, you sounded like that Testa guy when you said nope.
Nope. Chuck Testa.
Chuck Testa. All right.
I'll keep it short. This movie is bad in a lot of areas. It's good in a lot of areas. But there's something about it that is cohesive. And the characters, the lead, it just works. And for me, I enjoy 80s sort of B movies. So for me, this is a easy 7. So, and is obviously about the same as Tomb of the Dragon Emperor.
Gosh.
Oh, wait, what is it the same as?
It's about the same as Tomb of the Dragon Emperor.
Now, David, could you be honest with yourself? Do you think that this should actually be the same score as the 7 that you gave?
I don't know.
The Mummy 3.
The Mummy 3 was a little bit better, to be honest.
David, don't make me leap across this table.
Tomb of the Dragon Emperor is barely better than this movie.
Oh gosh. Okay, move on before I strangle you.
Yeah.
Next score belongs to AJ. This might be the farthest left to right swing in score.
Can I
we've
guess?
had.
Can I guess?
You can guess.
I don't think it'll beat Soldier, but I think he gave it a 2.5.
AJ gave this movie a 3.5.
Okay.
That's
then it's
not
not. It's not the biggest
bad.
swing. It's not
7 to 3.5 is a
Soldier.
big swing.
Soldier was a bigger one that had a 7,
just double.
and I think AJ gave that one 2.5.
Okay, all right.
It's half or double, depending on which way you look.
Yeah, so I'm going to rain on the parade here a little bit.
That's fine.
Got some Storm McClouds here.
Storm McClouds.
Yeah, this is a
That
bad
was
movie.
a good one.
I don't know what's wrong with David, but I can understand the nostalgia factor. But take away the nostalgia, and this is a bad movie. I think really that's all that it's got going for it is nostalgia. I mean, yes, Clancy Brown plays his role very well. I do not like his role. It's too okay. Let's put it this way. I know Noah said that there was a lot that was just cut out of this movie. My theory is this was not a movie. This was the cuttings from other movies that they just stole out of the trash from. Let's say this is a mockbuster of, let's call it, Interview with the Blade Runner. This is an amalgamation of the worst of Interview with the Vampire and Blade Runner. But instead of Tears in the Rain, we got Tears Down the Drain.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Corgan is whatever.
Kurgan,
I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah. Just like, okay, he plays that role very well, but it's just, I don't know, too weird. And just, I don't know. It's violent, okay, yeah. McLeod's character is just nothing. There's, I don't know. No, I don't feel tension. Just the highlight was when Sean Connery was on the screen because it added some levity and some kind of direction of what's going on in the story. I don't feel like there's kind of cohesion, like David said, between the different time periods. And then kind of just the fights felt anticlimactic except for Kurgan like killing everybody. But then somehow McLeod has this like amazing sword so he can kill Kurgan. But the like just character wasn't there for the main character. And the story was just, I don't know. Like it felt like recycled like Interview with the Vampire of his experiences through time. But I don't know. And then,
I will say Interview with the Vampire was 94. So that's after this one.
Okay. It told a better story.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. Interview with the Vampire is an amazing movie, actually.
Yeah, I love Interview with the Vampire.
That was one of the biggest, I just feel like I like 80s stuff, and this is like a C tier movie for me. I don't know. I didn't see it growing up. I didn't see it in its time. I'm not in the cult.
Nostalgia drives it, and you didn't have it.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah. I think none of us will reprimand you for having that opinion because, like we've said, nostalgia is a huge factor in this one. And if you, like, movies like these are kind of like you get it or you don't.
Yeah.
And
it's mainly, like, the main character is just nothing. McLeod is nothing. He's not heroic. He's not whatever. He's just born into being immortal and then somehow beats everybody. But doesn't really struggle, I find. Like, yeah, it's sad that his wife that he finally loved got, raped and murdered by Kurgan, who is actually, like, he's a good villain. Like, he's just, whatever, but I don't care because he's just weird compared to nothing. Compared to, I don't know, a nothing burger.
Paper clips their wounds. Come on.
Me.
It was the edgy thing to do at the time.
Yeah, he took the Billy Idol punk and
yeah,
cranked it to 11, I guess. But I don't know. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Fair enough. Next one.
Well, how about we swing the opposite direction here?
It's got to be mine.
It's got to be Irina.
Oh, okay.
With a 7.5.
Hey!
I like campiness. I like cheese, especially when it's fantasy. So I'm not afraid to give it this. It's mostly nostalgia.
Yeah.
These kind of movies are in a completely different universe in my mind as far as any other type of movie. Like, I probably would not give it a 7.5 if it were compared to like some other movies I've given 7.5, but it's almost like I'm encapsulating all of these within the world of Noah's selection of movies,
Oh, yeah.
So they do not touch the others.
Yeah, it's weird. These kinds of movies have like a very distinct feel.
Right.
And that it's like this weird retro camp whatever.
Yeah, it's like its own.
Where in its world, it's like
its own other genre.
It's like okay. Think like Bollywood and how like, oh my gosh, what the heck is this?
If I were only watching Bollywood movies, I guarantee there are some that go like swing up high and low and all over the place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like they're like like a 10 out of 10 Bollywood would probably be like a 5 over like for standard.
But who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's how I'm rating these, because I feel like I would be insulting my childhood self if I gave it something really low. So but at the same time, I'm going to say I acknowledge that it is a bad movie. It has some good elements. There's a lot that could be taken from this and like rechurned into something better, you know? So going back to what we said at the very beginning, what Reese said at the very beginning, this definitely could do with kind of some restructuring and a new coat of paint where someone takes that plot line, that storyline, and breathes some life into it, a little more love and care too. So because I would love to see that rendition. I think it could be a great work of fiction. So I'll leave it at that.
All right.
Who's next?
I forgot.
Dropping the ball.
I forgot I did things in this podcast. Next up is Noah, also with a 7.5.
Yeah, baby. Kind of exactly what Irina said, but I'll add that I think, like she, that it just needs a restructure. You know, not necessarily just a repainting. Like it needs maybe, you know, new walls, new rooms,
New foundation.
Here's what's good. This movie has a good foundation. It just doesn't fill out the building well.
Yeah.
I like this analogy. I do like this analogy.
Essentially it's got the bones of what could be a timeless epic.
Yeah.
But
it's like
it cuts out a lot of stuff. The acting is not top tier, except for, you know, I think the Kurgan's really good, even though there are still aspects of him that you change. But, you know, like I said, the 1 through 3 earlier, if you were listening, you know, first movie, have it be that beginning chapter of early Scotland, the Highlander would be that one, and then the next one would be, you know, the times up until modern day, and then the last one would be modern day. Spread it out, fill out all those gaps, all those problems with character building and relationships and knowledge that you don't know and have to infer. And I think it's a really, really good movie. Of course, a lot of this stuff we did not get, and that's where, for me, the nostalgia fills in those gaps. And I, like Irina, can still acknowledge that it's not on paper a good movie, but I will always have a good time watching it. So I'll keep with my 7.5.
All right.
Last but not least, we have our host, our main man, the chieftain of this podcast.
Gosh, stop. Just tell me the score.
Reese with a 10.0.
Yeah, man. Easily
Favorite
the best
movie.
movie that I've ever seen.
All right, last
Heart
but
attack.
not least, we have Reese with a 7.0.
This is starting to sound like we all saw the movie and we're like, guys, it's a 7. Like, but no, that did not happen.
That's David's philosophy.
I really, it's a conflicted review. It's a review where I could go as low as AJ and give this a 3.5 if I really dissected it and was like, it is objectively a bad movie. Like but for me, and I don't even, y'all say nostalgia. For me, it is weirdly not as much nostalgia that I'm giving it a 7 for. I think this is the one movie I pass on premise alone.
Yeah, premise is amazing.
And
that's the foundation.
And at least like mildly decent execution of said premise at times. I think if you recast the main guy in this, and I know we like Christopher Lambert because that's a big nostalgia play because we're used to seeing him. But I think if you recast him with someone, a better actor.
I agree.
And even recast, I hate to say it, but Sean Connery, if you had someone like, and I know it's not of the era, but if you had someone like Russell Crowe or someone who just has a lot of pathos and is able to, This movie,
a slightly younger Anthony Hopkins, maybe Jeremy Irons.
yeah, and Anthony Hopkins, like just this movie has a protagonist problem. I feel like they're just not all the way developed, and that's really what kind of almost kills this movie for me. But the premise in this movie is so good, so killer. Like having these warriors that are being dwindled throughout, like immortal warriors dwindled down throughout time, where ultimately only one can exist and they get the ultimate power. And you have these intersplicing of like things that happened in the past, and just these fun moments of like what it's like to be immortal and how that is a problem, and also how it can be fun or interesting. This at least tries to play around with that a little bit. And it's just, it's a really ambitious failure of a movie that on sheer ambition and premise alone, and some honestly like gorgeous cinematography at times. And I'm even talking about this final fight where there's a bunch of like cool, tasteful neon.
The final fight is great.
Yeah, there's like cool, tasteful neon lighting, really cool, fantastical effects. Interesting camera work.
Electricity coming from the blades.
Yeah, there's a lot of actual craft that went into this movie. It's just for all the good stuff, there's an equal amount of bad. And yeah, you'd think, oh, I'm giving it a 5. Like, it's 50-50. But I think the premise is so strong that I'm just kind of... I am giving it a 7, but also saying, like, guys... remake this movie now and make it the best movie ever.
This
like,
could be the new Dune.
Oh,
this
yeah,
could be the next Dune.
It is. It's kind of similar in that way where it's just like a kind of a tragic. It's not even tragic. This is better than David Lynch's Dune in my opinion, but it's something where it's like maybe it was before its time and they just couldn't execute on something like this. But also it's kind of intrinsically 80s at the same time where it's kind of, that's part of the charm.
I think they need to break away from the 80s charm if they remake it. Break away from all the camp and do a serious...
This seems like a
Highlander.
movie that they wrote modern, in that somebody in the 80s somehow went to the future and was like, oh, I could do that.
Yeah.
And then they tried to make it.
Just
like,
wait till
nope.
the next one.
Yeah. So I said I kind of alluded to it earlier. I put this in exactly the same camp as Neverending Story, where it's just really cool premise, not perfect execution. I understand why it's a cult classic. And I kind of endorse its cult classic status. So with my slightly dismissive, but also decent 7 out of 10.
I think this is the best example of a true cult classic that we've had so far.
Yeah.
People throw that term around a lot, and it's kind of lost its meaning. I think this is the true embodiment of a cult classic.
Yeah.
It is.
I've recently come across some movies where totally panned terrible movies, and I'll read on Wikipedia, and it's been reassessed as a cult classic, and I'm like, no, it's not. Like, there's so many examples of that I can't think of right now, but it's like, it's not a cult classic. That's a movie that someone pulled out of a Walmart bin and said, hey, this isn't as bad as what I was expecting out of the Walmart bin.
Yeah, the cult of one.
Yeah. All right, AJ, you want to crunch those numbers for us?
All right, group average for Highlander is 6.5, which ties it with Van Helsing.
That seems actually right to me.
I agree. It gives me a similar camp vibe.
They're both ambitious failures.
Yeah.
Puts it above Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas at a 6.4. And below... let's see, we got legacy episodes here. Constantine had a 6.6. The Mummy 2017 had a 6.6. And then official episode Die Hard 2 had a 6.7.
Didn't what did we give the... Oh, yeah, I guess the last Mortal Kombat was below this one with 6.3 or something like that. The newer one?
6.2.
Ah, 6.2. Okay. All right. Yeah, so this is officially the highest one in your miniseries, Noah. Congratulations.
Hey.
6.5.
Man, that's the highest. Oof.
It feels appropriate, though. And it's been fun. I'll say it's been fun.
I enjoyed this whole series.
See, here's the thing. For me, so far with this series, we've had some bad ones, but it's never been like the kind of bad that I would just like not watch.
It's all
while drinking
watchable
with friends.
trash.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
It's not like like they haven't really truly insulted me yet.
If you haven't seen this movie,
Annihilation is
listening,
close to insulting.
Yes, it is.
I'll say,
but
it is.
If you're listening to this
it's pretty
episode
close.
and you're at this point of the episode and you haven't seen this movie, I highly recommend you watch this movie.
But in the right context.
Get some
Drunk.
beers, hang out with some friends.
Blackout drunk.
If you're underage, hang out with your
with
parents.
your eyes closed.
You have. I think you have to watch this movie with some people, and there should be some alcohol involved.
If you're of
doesn't have to
age,
be a lot.
if you're of age, we got
Doesn't
to
have to be a lot.
specify. We're
Should your miniseries be called Alcohol Required?
Alcohol required.
Symbolic
Actually, be an
lobotomies.
excellent offshoot.
I know it would be.
That's a
Oh my
great
gosh,
episode name.
man.
That's what KO is, knockout drunk.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, though. This right now is the Titanic of this series. It's the tipping
The crown
point.
jewel.
Unfortunately,
Crown Jewel.
The
I don't know.
crown jewel.
Which, so,
Right now,
did you build this series around this movie?
oh man, that would have been sad.
right now, where the top in this series is Highlander.
Where are we going after
and
this?
after this is the next Highlander.
So Noah has 3 tent poles, and Highlander was one of them. Mortal Kombat was one of them.
Circus
I know,
tent.
oof. And then the one that's supposed to be actually very, very good, Enter the Dragon, is the final
Yeah.
one.
Oh, we're
Yeah.
telling people now. Okay, all right.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
yeah, I guess so.
it's weird. Mortal Kombat and Enter the Dragon actually match a lot more than Highlander and
No, Highlander
Enter the
I think
Dragon.
fits right in with all of
Really?
them.
It
I think
really does.
It
Okay.
really does. Yeah.
All right.
It's
Well, no. Highlander really fits with Mortal Kombat. I'm more talking about the segue, the order.
Well, I think Highlander and Mortal Kombat work, but after that,
yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's go on to critics. Y'all ready?
yeah.
On Rotten Tomatoes, this movie has a 70% with an audience score of 79%, which is more positive than I was expecting. So overall, good reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, especially for the time. I would have thought this would be like, I don't know, savaged by critics. However, the story is different on Metacritic. This has a really low Metacritic score of 24 out of 100.
Whoa there.
And a audience score of 7.6.
What?
Yep, on
So that's a cult following.
yeah. Well, you missed the Rotten Tomatoes. No, you were leaning back. Rotten Tomatoes.
No, I heard the Rotten Tomatoes.
70%.
Yeah.
So critics were positive weirdly on that, which weird. And on IMDb, it has a 7.1, so not so bad there either. I would say overall a net positive, except for that weird black eye that it took with the Metacritic critic score. What's that noise?
I think it's David's foot.
That was me.
Oh, okay. Cool. All right. So, Noah, you at least got some approval from the critics here. So, how do you feel about
Yeah,
that?
brother. I feel good.
I'm feeling good, brother.
I feel like the post football game.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
I'm feeling good.
Feeling
we
good?
got him in the first
They
half.
had
We
us in the
were
first
not gonna
half.
lie.
Yep.
But now
just
we
have to
showed
keep
them what
trying
we're
and
worth.
score.
We got through the movie.
Did our best.
We did our best, and I think everything's gonna be okay.
All right.
Well,
box
70%
office.
of those critics on Rotten Tomatoes gave it the bare minimum of a 6 to make a positive movie.
Yes. So they probably did not score it super high, I'm guessing. All right. The movie released. We're going into box office now. Movie released on March 7th in 1986. So also playing at the time, if I can get my computer screen to work. Also in theaters at the time was Back to the Future. And that's the only other one that's coming up for me, but that's another big movie for you. What do y'all think? And sorry, I should also say the budget for this movie is reported to be around $19 million, which is actually pretty hefty for this type of movie, especially in 1986. So what do y'all think this movie did worldwide? Let's start with David.
100 million, Bob.
Are you?
Are you?
Hundy?
Are you?
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
You know, I had a feeling I could monopolize the 100 million really quick.
Monopolize?
I could monopolize that real quick.
AJ, how about you?
Gosh, 50.
50?
Yeah.
Noah?
All right, just to be that guy,
Don't do
I'm gonna
it.
say 110.
No.
110. Irina?
I'm going to say 73.
It's the worst part about being the first person, but it's not the worst it's been.
You said 50, David?
No, I said 100.
AJ said 50.
AJ, you said 50. So you are the winner. here.
You are last place. It was actually 110.
So this is, and maybe I should have done my research more as to why this film got sequels. But according to Google and Box Office Mojo and Wikipedia, this movie only did 12.8 million.
What?
Yeah, under its budget. Yeah.
Wow.
I would say not a hit.
No.
But this is where it gets weird, because this is the first time I've had a movie where it's like did not make a lot of, I don't know, money. But I think it did develop. This is where the cult following thing came into play.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think it came quickly because we do have sequels for this movie. I think it quickly developed that cult following.
The sequel came out in 91, which means it's got a solid 5 years.
Yeah, it had 5 years to develop that following.
Well,
Probably
I mean, a little less than that because development takes a while, probably. But
yeah, probably really cleaned up on like it's not Blu-ray. That definitely wasn't out at the time.
DVD,
Like
VHS.
VHS and like Betamax sales.
Yeah, VHS.
This seems like the type of movie that nerds would find, and they thought like, guys, you gotta see this movie. And then they spread it to all their friends, and it kind of like grew like wildfire.
It also gives me, drive-in movie theater vibes. So like post release, I imagine there were a lot of drive-in movie theaters kind of unrelated to that time's box office. That like, here, let's put this on. It's like been out a year, but
and I will also say, during these times, marketing didn't cost nearly as much, or marketing they wouldn't spend on it quite as much. So a movie didn't have to make multiples of its budget to be successful. Granted, this movie still was a disappointment at the box office, but I do think that it's a lot easier to recoup that, post-release, and then kind of see that there is actually interest in this property. It's still weird though. Like Blade Runner made more than this, yet that was regarded as a box office bomb and didn't get sequels until, a few years ago.
What also is weird. Okay, so you said March 7th of 86.
Mm-hmm.
What also released March 7th of 86 was Care Bears Movie 2, A New Generation, which grossed, looks like $2,000 more than Highlander.
What?
That's sad.
That is disappointing. I almost said disappressing. It's depressing.
Disappressing. I think it is disappressing, Noah.
Yeah, it's depressing.
Yeah, so not a particular success at the box office, but one of the few examples of a movie that spawns a franchise based off cult following alone, pretty much. I think the only ones I can think of that did that as well were the Evil Dead movies. Those movies were well known as not costing a lot.
So good.
But I still looked them up, and they did not make a lot of money either. Yet it's a 4+ film franchise.
That humor was ahead of its time, though.
I feel like those are also aimed at like DVD releases instead of box office.
Yeah.
Napoleon Dynamite, baby.
So yeah, not a very good performer at the box office, yet we got a sequel next week, guys. We got Highlander 2, The Quickening next week. And I will just say there's a reason why you do not hear Highlander 2, The Quickening as a cult classic
Forecasts
these days.
Don't look great.
I'm not super pumped.
Although it is
CG
direct.
lightning.
Here's the weird thing, though. And I haven't seen it yet. Noah, you're the one out of the group that's seen it. Directed by the same guy. Starring all the same people. You would think, hey, maybe it's the, same level. But from what I've heard, No, it is not. But I will keep an open mind. I'll keep an open mind
Yep.
for this one.
Yeah, you should.
You should. No. All right. Any final thoughts on Highlander before we close out this episode?
There should be only one.
There can be only one, and you're right. There should be only one, but there's not.
All right. With that said, goodbye, you guys, and goodbye to all.
I don't like boats and I don't like water. I'm a man, not a fish.